a frame tweaked to my way I wanted it. So, CW's never really handled well.
Really?
Like, no, they're terrible. Like the best bike I ever rode. Well, there were two. One was a GT and one was a Hutch, and I couldn't race those obviously, but um, I had friends that had those bikes, and when I rode them, I was like, man, this is awesome. It's like I think I could do way better on these bikes than I could on a CW.
I've rode most of my life, and I know what I like, but I find it so fascinating that guys on factory teams can actually pinpoint what they don't like about the frame and ask the manufacturer to alter it. Because I would just go into, if I was you, I'd say, Roger, I don't like this bike. Can you fix it? And you say, well, what's wrong with it? I say, well, I don't really know. I just know I don't like it. So I think it's fascinating that some of the times where the factory riders can say, it needs a longer top tube, it needs a steeper head angle, or whatever the case may be. So that's cool that you knew what you wanted, or did you just go copy the Patterson like everybody else?
No. So how that whole thing transpired was, so when I would go to California, I would stay with Roger some, and then go to work with him at the factory. And his brother Gary was a machinist there, cutting tubes and getting parts ready to weld up. And so I became friends with Gary, and at the time I was racing a cruiser too, and the only CW. I actually raced my cruiser with Kaz cruiser bars because they were like the lowest cruiser bars you could find, and CW didn't offer like a really low cruiser bar. So I said, Gary, I need some lower bars. Can we make some lower CW cruiser bars? It's like, yeah, no problem. So basically what we did was we took just the top of a pro bar and the bottom of a mini bar and welded it together. And that was now the new CW cruiser bars. So anyway, Gary helped me with that. And he also, I said, can you make some changes to a frame? Like, oh yeah, that's easy. So I kind of told him what I wanted. And I think it was like a slightly lower bottom bracket and a seat tube that wasn't so laid back like a chopper, and a shorter rear end. So there was a fair amount of hand fabrication to do that, because they have jigs set up to cut and
right.
So he was nice enough to spend the time to do that.
I think that's ironic that you said that, because that was always my issue with the CW, where I didn't like it. The seat tube was like way too far back, man.
Right.
And that, I mean, they weren't the only ones. I think Diamondback, the Formula One, and the Silver Streak had the same problem.
Yeah.
Even the Race Incorporateds and the FMFs, I thought had a jacked up seat tube angle.
I think that Laidback seat tube was kind of a carryover from the late 70s bikes. It just never changed. I don't know why it never changed, but it was weird having a laid back seat. And then they came up with the laid back seat post. Like, well, you don't even really need a laid back seat post on a CW, but
Yeah. They still bother me to this day. I can't stand them.
Yeah. What, the laid back seat posts?
Anything with the laid back seat post, I can't stand.
Yeah. Hey, it is what it is. But when you're getting the shit for free, you don't complain, right?
Well, was there one co-sponsor when you guys were on that you had to ride their product, but you didn't really like it? Like, was there like AME or the grips or a plate or something like that you didn't like that you had to ride?
So there were two that I remember. One was Terry cable, which is great on a motorcycle, but basically the brake cable that they made for the bikes was the same size as like a motorcycle brake cable, so it was like heavy as shit. And then the Saber number plate, that was another one. That big giant pointed number plate, like
I've heard people bag on the Saber. I didn't think it was that bad. I think I might have had one or two of those. What was the Haro with the holes in it where you had to put pins in your numbers? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I still have some of those here. But
really?
The thing, yeah. So I have all my number plates from when I first started up until I quit. I still have my uniforms. I don't have any of the bikes except for a CW pit bike, which I got when I was on CW. But the thing about the Saber plates was they just rattled and made all kinds of terrible noise because they were just so big and floppy. It was just, you know,
Yeah.
too much. You didn't need something that big on the front of your bike.
Yeah. I can only imagine. So you're racing, and how long were you on CW for?
I was on CW from I think 81 ish to 84 till I quit. I quit racing in 85 ish. So I got I broke my collarbone at the NBL Grands in '84, and I was never I wasn't able to come back from it. It was just it net didn't heal right, and I just